Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and welcome to my 12-part eclipse series on the eclipses going through the signs and houses. Definitely go to lumelife.com, L-U-M-E life.com, which is my school, Luminous Life Multiversity, to enroll in free courses and all kinds of other offerings I have through there. And when you search for my name, Annie Botticelli, in an internet search, you'll see all kinds of listings of mostly free resources that I make for you to facilitate your study of astrology and your quest for vibrational wellness. So this series is talking about eclipses. I'm doing one eclipse video for each sign and house. Okay, so every sign in astrology corresponds with a house in the zodiac wheel. And so an eclipse in a certain sign is also the energy of that corresponding house. And this becomes very helpful to understand when you want to go deeper in your study of eclipses and how they may affect you, and understanding the opportunities and the lessons that are at play during each eclipse cycle. Each eclipse cycle is about 2 years long, and every 6 months in those 2 years we have a hot spot where the actual eclipses occur. So the storylines, the themes, the lessons, the opportunities, the chances to clear karma and get on our dharmic path, which is our highest expression path, which is what the eclipses really represent. They occur along the nodal line, and the nodes represent clearing karma and stepping into our highest expression. So every eclipse that we have and every eclipse cycle that's at play is really facilitating us in healing, clearing karma, and on stepping on our highest trajectory, which is our dharma, our purpose, why we're here. So that's why it's really important to understand them, and why I spend so much time creating resources to facilitate this for you. Okay, so I'm going to give you a little bit of a background on what eclipses, what they represent and what they can bring, and then we'll go into the featured sign and house for this video. Okay, so these eclipses happen twice a year usually. Sometimes it's every 6 months basically, so it could be the beginning of one year and then in the middle and then towards the end, or they're broken up that way. So when the eclipses come, they tend to bring alive and into clear view that scientific law that matter is not created, neither created nor destroyed, it just changes form. We can really see that at play at the eclipses, where it's taking energy from one area, because the eclipses run with polarities. Okay, so there are 12 signs and there are 6 polarities. So there's signs that oppose each other, that are a pair. And the eclipses happen in these 2 opposing signs throughout that 2 years. So it's a reshuffling and a reworking of energy. So one eclipse cycle, it will take from one area and add to the other, and vice versa. So we're just kind of shifting and reshuffling and reorganizing energy in those arenas of your life. The eclipses occur in certain signs, and those effects are global. But they also drill down into certain areas of your chart for each sign, and that understanding this and watching these videos will help you to take the work deeper. Now, in order to figure out during each eclipse cycle what houses are being accentuated for you personally, just watch my monthly videos, and somewhere in the area of the eclipse time, I'll be talking about it, but it will save me a lot of time having this video series to refer you to, so we don't have to cover all of this in each of the horoscope videos, which is what I used to do. Okay, so this reshuffling of energy, where basically the energy isn't it isn't created, it changes forms. So we might see a grandparent die and a child be born. So for that person who's experiencing that, it's like an area of their lives that was present with them for their whole lives is gone, but now this new energy is here. So it's like this major reshuffling of energy, and it very often has very, very major trajectory changes for a lot of people, and it's going to depend on the exact degree that it's hitting planets in your chart. But if it's really affecting you, you'll know it. Everybody else may have a subtle change that's harder to notice or recognize, but it's definitely affecting everyone, regardless of whether we're aware of it or not. And the more you look, the more you'll see these things at play. So eclipse season, what I call eclipse season, lasts about 4 to 6 and even sometimes 8 weeks before the actual eclipse. You'll see a heating up. It's kind of like, I always think about it as a pot on a stove, where it's like a certain pot, okay, and a certain liquid in that pot that has a certain energy that has the signs that are in that eclipse cycle. And during the actual eclipse time, it heats up to a boil, you know? And then during the times in between, it's like down to a simmer. And then we turn up, you know, the universe cranks up the messages and they convert from the inner world into the outer world, and we get to see them more clearly. And so it heats up and then it kind of fades back down. It heats up, but the themes are always at play for these 2 months. For these 2 years. Okay, so just make sure I tell everything else. So the things that happen at eclipse time tend to feel destined a lot of times, where things happen, and a lot of times it's out of our control. Eclipses often bring non-negotiable changes to our lives. It can be very scary and very stressful. So it's definitely a key point around eclipse time to do modalities that help you to ease anxiety, and I discuss those in videos and other offerings that I have on how you can keep the anxiety level low so that you can stay connected with your intuition and with spirit and navigate through them in the easiest way. Okay, so even though there are certain things in our lives that are fated and unavoidable, there are definitely things we have some say in, and we can shift our experience of those events. So understanding all of these things and doing inner work to help clear out the karmic gunk that's coming up can be part of how we can have a better experience of the things that are fated to happen. Okay, so just make sure there's everything I wanted to talk about there. Okay, yeah, so just the overview is that eclipses as an astronomical occurrence happen at the time they're happening, but eclipses as an astrological occurrence happen for all of the time they're occurring. And you'll notice for the years that a certain eclipse cycle is happening, if you go back to the last time or last times that eclipse cycle happened, there are themes at play that will likely come back into your life. It doesn't mean the same things will happen per se, but you'll see the same lessons, the same topics that are moving you along in a certain area of life. Okay, so now let's check out the sign and house of focus. Eclipses bring major changes, major news, and major events. And although sometimes we observe other people having the changes and we're holding space for them, very often we are the ones that are having the changes when the eclipses occur in these certain placements. When there's an eclipse in the 3rd house or Gemini, one of the sectors of life that is very much brought into the forefront is communication. So this can be interpersonal communication, the way that you relate to others, your communication style. I very often will talk on this topic about how our nervous system has been imprinted with the tones, with the things said and not said by our parents or primary, child rearers, that get laced into our way of talking. And so going deeper into how, well, actually, in many cases, violence is just imprinted in to our language, whether it's passive aggressive or, if a parent is stressed and it goes into the speech and the kid gets imprinted with it, then it rolls into our communication style. So in-depth opportunities to look at how we're communicating. And again, this comes up at this time, but it has to do a lot of times with how we experience someone else. So if we think they're being harsh or they're not being fair or they're being, in a certain way, sometimes those things can serve as reflectors for us at this time about our own personal communication patterns. And the more we can own that, if we're having communication issues with other people, that we can own our part of it and where it came from and how we're attracting it in, the more we can use the opportunity that comes at this time with the eclipse cycle. So interpersonal communications, I always like to recommend the book Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg, where he outlines this, plus a plan to shift it. I really love his work because he gets people together that are basically warring with each other, sometimes very seriously warring with each other, gets them in the same room, teaches them this communication system in order to help people get better outcomes to reach common goals with their communication. So that's a big one that I see. Devices are another part of this. So, issues with devices, dropping phones in toilets, having new devices, having to have them or choosing to upgrade, or any kind of change with communication. Anything having to do with systems, your system of communication with people. So how, email, ways that you go texting, ways that you go about communicating. So notable things occurring there, or changing how you relate to those particular ways. Something else that comes up a lot with third house eclipses and Gemini eclipses is transportation and mobility. So the modes of transportation, issues with a car or other vehicle, getting new ones. And again, I always talk about this. Eclipses often bring in new devices or transportation pieces, but definitely also pay attention to the time that it's occurring. So, if it's a personal planet retrograde, which I speak to more in the horoscopes, it may not be the time to voluntarily make a purchase, but if you can just, watch the general transits as they relate to the eclipse season and time your purchases if possible, that can be helpful. But in general, this topic will come up. It's a time to not ignore when your car is doing something weird. That's the bottom line. It's a time to make a pledge to not text and drive, and remember that before we could text and drive, we didn't. So therefore we still can manage to get from place to place without texting or even talking on the phone. Anything that can interfere with the driving, because this energy can increase the energy of accidents. And so even if you're walking or biking, avoiding being distracted while those things are happening, look to, be extra careful with your physical body as it relates to other people moving and you moving around. This energy also has to do with physical mobility. So if there's been an injury, sometimes there's an injury from the eclipse or related to the eclipse, or sometimes there's a healing moving along a continuum of regaining mobility, a different chapter of mobility. Writing and editing and some different aspects of your expression can come up at this time. So writing projects and opportunities. Also, relatives that aren't parents or kids are related to the third house in Gemini. So cousins, siblings, aunts, uncles, things like that are in this house. So notable connections with these people or opportunities or progress along a continuum can often come in as a third house eclipse chapter. Gemini can also relate to social settings and some aspect of, relating in a social scene. So notable interactions in the social scene can also come up at this time. So a quick summary of some of the ways to best use this energy is to respond to the things that occur. So if there's a symptom, if something's going on, look into it. Pay attention to the opportunities that come and take them seriously. And follow your hunches in these areas. Make a promise to yourself for accountability. So, ask yourself how you are the common denominator in your interactions, and do whatever is relevant to the situation to own your part and to work with your part of the dynamic. Pay extra special attention as you're moving around and have much extra care and extra focus. And be prepared to blow the dust off of old writing projects or start new writing projects or get down into the cleaning up of communications or other writing projects that have already been in process. So I hope you loved this. Definitely look at my other resources. If you search for my name, Annie Botticelli, online, you'll find tons of things that I offer you. You can go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com, for lots of blogs and other things that can facilitate your journey. You can go to cozybysweetstarlight.com for written horoscopes, lifestyle blogs, and astrology kissed information that I think you will just love. You can go to lumelife.com, L-U-M-E life.com, to see my school, Luminous Life Multiversity. And definitely check out my growing list of books, including my new book, PLANETOLOGY. If you search for Annie Botticelli and PLANETOLOGY and Annie Botticelli, Radical Prayer, those are the two books that are out as of the time of my recording this. And I'm sure as this goes on, you will see more books coming out from me. I hope you have a wonderful eclipse season, and I'll see you in another video. Bye!